is going on at Adelaide Crows? That's what we're all asking. Eddie Betts, of course, hurt his hamstring again during the week. Have a look at this. 9 players who have had hamstring injuries this year.
And a few multiples as well.
That's right. Walker a couple of times, Crouch, Eddie Betts twice, Sam.
That'd make 11. I told you it was 11.
Cole Cheney, yes. No, well, there's 9 players. So what is happening there? We want to know.
What? Yeah, well, I think it's a sport. I reckon it's the sport science stuff. I reckon that they've been overtrained, and it might have something to do with that stupid camp they went on at the start of the year, because I think it's cooked them.
Yeah, and there's a bit of an We Want Answers campaign that's starting at the moment.
Yeah,
this is
there
quite
is.
legit by the supporters. Apparently it's going to open up tomorrow, but already there's been some trolls, Fifth.
Yeah, there has, and there's been a lot of tweets that have gone out from Adelaide supporters to the social media on Twitter, and one of them says, "Why didn't Tex play in the grand final?" Hashtag We Want Answers, AFC. And there's another one here. It's, "Did Tex Walker look good here?" Hashtag We Want Answers. And these are legit tweets from Adelaide supporters.
The power stance.
And there's another one. "Why does a chain named Just Jeans also sell T-shirts?" Hashtag We Want Answers.
Boys,
they're legit from actual Adelaide supporters.
Guys, first of all, can I go back to you, Jack? Your club has been maligned for not going on a camp. When you win, it's because you didn't go on the camp and the players stood up to it. When you lose, it's because you're all soft. Adelaide are now getting belted because of this drama that's happening. Are these camps worth it? What's the collective feeling amongst people in the footy world about these sort of mind and boot camp type of scenarios?
Oh, I think it's up to the individual club to determine whether they feel the camp's right for them or not. For us, we didn't feel like it was at the start of the year. You know, we could, if we weren't, if we were sitting in a, you know, maybe 4 and 8 the other way around, then certainly that decision would come under fire like it has for Adelaide. So it was very kind of outcome based, and you know, I'm not too sure how what Adelaide did or how they went about it.
Well, let me take you through it, because we've been able to actually, this is legit, we've been able to get hold of a corporate video that Collective Mind, who are the people behind the Adelaide, set up as far as getting their psychology right and their physical activities right and everything else. And these are the endorsements made by the Adelaide Football Club, and it gives us an insight into what Adelaide has been trying to achieve with this camp and what they were doing last year going into the final series.
The value for us of mind training is we've made a lot of progression, if you like, on the physical side, whether it be in our weights program, our conditioning program, our skill and game program, but the frontier that hasn't quite been tapped in considerably is the mind space. Really, the mind controls the body. A lot of our time was historically spent on the body, and we think getting our players aware of the mind and the role that plays in their performance was really vital.
Thinking about the mind, you just don't realise how powerful it can be and how it can affect your performance. And once you tap into that space, not only do you feel more energetic and more positive as a person, you feel more confident in yourself. And I definitely think going forward in sport, it's going to be a huge area that is untapped.
It took away the lapses in games where I wouldn't be present, where I'll be foggy, where I would be not in zone. The mind training's helped me minimise that time.
Super important, I think, for our footy club and myself to be able to continue on the mind training. I think it's just as important as the physical aspect in being an elite athlete.
We just unlocked the door. It's an area we want to continue to expand on.
There you go. So you just saw the end of it there. That's been signed up for 2 years. Now, guys, we want to go through this because that was on the eve of the finals campaign. Now, going in, Adelaide were shooting the lights out. They were fantastic. When I roll some video, this was the preliminary final against GWS. Remember the power stance? Yep. This is all part of this. Now, this worked a treat. They've got the big crowd. They're there. They're standing up at attention. Watch what happened to GWS, who thought that's the end of the national anthem. Are we supposed to go? Are we standing
what are we
here?
doing?
What's going on? Now, whether it had an effect or not, they were certainly disorientated. A week later, they do the same thing, and have a look at that. Dimmer's just laughing, and they're pumped up. And remember, at half-time, we believe it was Sean Grigg, but watch this when they come off the ground, what the Tigers had to say, having withstood the onslaught from Adelaide early. Have a listen to this.
Hey, they're not so tough now.
So finding words there, they're not that tough now. So clearly the psychology was there, Jack. Take us inside the workings of a club, if you could, going into that grand final for Richmond. They saw what had happened. They would have heard word out that Collective Minds were helping them with all that sort of stuff. What goes on?
Oh, I think you try and just look for advantages and you do what you feel, you know, will best prepare you for a game of football. And obviously, like you said, they had a good result from doing whatever they did the week before. And it might not have paid off for them in that game, whether they can tie it back to that or whatever, I can't answer. But
Is there value in this stuff, Viv?
No. And I'm saying it for the reason, we have leading teams or something like that, not putting leading teams down because it's each to their own, but when we had those meetings, I'd nearly fall asleep because it wasn't for me. I'm an instinctive footballer, I play on instincts, I go out there and I want to play. You've got blokes with a high IQ that are very smart, that are well educated, that'll probably get that. But then you've got your lower IQ guys, which was probably me, and I didn't quite get it. So I just wanted to go out, not bagging certain players, but they're there to play football. They're not standing out in the ground going, oh, you saw young McGovern there going, he'd be sitting there going, oh, what did my mind training say? Oh, there's the ball, I don't know what to do.
Did you embrace, but you didn't embrace it?
No.
Well, you should have given it a go. It might have worked.
It might have worked, I was a star.
Oh.
But it obviously hasn't worked.
What about you, Foss? What did you used to have back in the good old days? Camps or all that mental toughness?
Go out there and play, Sam.
Well, this is not about the coach per se or the support staff, but that is posturing and obsequious nonsense. That's almost psychotic, that stuff. Because, as Brendan said, and I'm one of them and he's another, they have fallen for the trap like most clubs do, thinking their players are nuclear physicists. We are not. We play on reflex and instinct. And if you don't get through to the lowest common denominator, you get through to no one. You've got to make the dullest or the less intelligent players, and I don't mean that they're stupid, but there's people who play football because they're good at reflex and instinctive sport. And if you don't get through to them, it's no good speaking to the top people. It's not the top down, it's the bottom up. And if ever a coach was responsible for doing anything or drew a salary, his job is to actually do exactly what that
Collective minds, yeah.
what that video says. He has to instill into players attitude, commitment, discipline, enthusiasm, loyalty and persistence. If you can't do that, you shouldn't draw a salary to be a coach. And I'm not having a go at the coach per se because he has tremendous support staff.
No, but it's an industry thing, isn't it?
It is an industry thing. And as for hamstrings, did you ever think that we might be training players the wrong way? We're training athletes to run a marathon in under 2 hours as opposed to getting them to actually try and get the football and take some knocks and play the game as it should be played rather than athletes playing football. We should have football becoming athletes.
Now, I'll come back to you in a second. I want to show a couple of things. But Sam, ever think about... I remember one time you gave a lecture about how you were recruited into the corporate world, and Theodore Levitt was one of your great authors. I might... is it Theodore Levitt, was it?
Theodore Levitt.
What did he have to say about this sort of thing?
This is exactly right. I was recruited to be a salesman, a transport salesman, and I was given a book, and Theodore Levitt said this. He was a lecturer in business studies at the Harvard University. I hope I can remember it. He said, "Modelers build intricate decision trees whose pretension to utility is exceeded only by the awe in which the high-level line managers hold the technocrats who construct them." And I remember looking at the book and thinking, holy shit. And I was very impressed with Theodore. I thought, not only who is smart enough to write that, who is smart enough to understand it. I lasted, this is absolutely true, under Graham John at TNT, I lasted 1 day as a transport salesman, and I got into commentating on football after that.
And made a living at it. There you go.